Who lived in a village near the forest. She always wore a red riding cloak, so everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood asked her mother if she could go to visit her grandmother. "What a good idea," said her mother. "Let's pack a basket of lunch to take with you." As the little girl was leaving, her mother said, "Now remember, go straight to Grandma's house. Don't dawdle in the forest and don't talk to strangers." But as soon as Little Red Riding Hood walked into the woods, she forgot. She stopped to pick flowers, then she watched some butterflies, then she listened to the frogs. Little Red Riding Hood was so busy she didn't notice a dark shadow coming up behind her. Suddenly a large and spectacular wolf appeared. "What are you doing out here, little girl?" said the wolf. "I'm going to see my grandma who lives through the forest near the stream, and I should be on my way. I've been picking flowers and watching butterflies and listening to frogs. I'm late." Then she rushed down the path towards her grandma's house. The wolf, who was hungry, took a shortcut and ran to Grandma's house before Little Red Riding Hood arrived. He knocked at the door. "Is that Little Red Riding Hood?" said Grandma. "Come in, come in." Then the wolf let himself in, and poor Granny didn't have time for another word before the wolf pounced and gobbled her up. night, the wolf decided to have some fun. He poked through Grandma's wardrobe and pulled out a long nightgown. "I like this one," he said, and he dressed himself in it. He pulled on a frilly nightcap onto his head and dabbed some of Grandma's perfume behind his ears. A few minutes later, Little Red Riding Hood knocked on the door. The wolf jumped into bed and pulled the covers over his nose. "Who is it?" he called out in an old lady type of voice. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood." "Do come in, my dear," croaked the wolf. When she entered the cottage, she stared at her grandma. "Grandma, your voice sounds so odd," she said. "I have a bit of a cold," croaked the wolf. "Grandma, what big ears you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "The better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "But Grandma, what big eyes you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "The better to see you with, my dear," replied the wolf with a toothy grin. "But Grandma, what big teeth you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "The better to eat you with, my dear," roared the wolf, and he leapt out of bed and chased her round the room. When the frilly nightcap came off the wolf's head, Little Red Riding Hood realized that the person in bed was not her grandma. It was a large, frightening and hungry wolf. Little Red Riding Hood ran out of the house, shouting, "Help, wolf!" as loudly as she could. It just so happened that a woodsman was chopping logs nearby and heard her cry. He ran to the cottage. He was a strong, brave man. He grabbed the wolf and forced him to spit out Grandma, and she was still alive. Little Red Riding Hood gave her granny a big hug. "Oh, Grandma, I was so scared. I forgot what Mummy told me, but I promise I'll never dawdle in the forest again, nor speak to strangers." The woodsman tied a rope around the wolf's neck and dragged him deep into the forest to be sure he would never harm anyone again. Oh, and by the way, the wolf learned that dressing up was fun, but he wouldn't be trying it again anytime soon.
Hello, my name is William Lewis and I play bassoon with the Austin Symphony Orchestra. The bassoon is the largest instrument in the woodwind section. It's made of maple and it plays mostly low notes, although a lot of times we get some really interesting parts that are the really sad, mopey sounds or the really happy sounds that get to let everybody laugh a little bit. It's a great instrument for making different colors and different characters come out of the orchestra. It's sometimes called the character of the orchestra. I started bassoon in the 10th grade, and I love playing the bassoon, but mostly I love the sound of the bassoon and the different colors that it can create. I hope you love hearing the bassoon on this recording as much as I love playing it for you.